the demons' treasure. They found an ancient treasure, but paid a price too steep. Igor, my school friend and comrade. He studied law and now handled the legal issues of our hobby, exploration, excavation. Slavka joined us about 10 years ago. He was a geologist and surveyor, so he was responsible for scanning the Earth's layers, probing the soil and rocks. As for me, I simply dealt with diving equipment and other gear for outdoor enthusiasts, and I went on excavations for the soul. We decided to take a break from our righteous labors and gathered for a vacation on the seaside. With us went Tatiana, Slavka's wife, his 10-year-old son Stas, and my 14-year-old daughter, Vika. We planned to bask in the sun, swim, tan, and laze about. We pitched our tents on a deserted beach. The place was wild, stunningly beautiful. It wasn't even 3 hours before Slavka started to whine. The water was cold, the sun not scorching, the boredom unbearable. He decided to go to the market to distract himself. Getting to the bazaar was quite a journey. But Slavka went anyway. Instead of groceries, however, our friend brought back a tattered paper with scribbles, passing it off as a map. And what's hidden there? Igor quipped, rubbing his palms together playfully. I don't know. Treasure. Probably. Slavka proudly declared, considering how much money our friend spent on that piece of paper. We thought it worth at least checking if it was worth it. Igor persisted teasingly. Slavka, since when did you become so gullible? This is a major tourist destination. Everything's been explored, dug up. They sold you a load of nonsense. Let it go. But Slavka insisted. Guys, I'm not asking you for money. Just keep me company, huh? I chuckled. Your company? Buddy usually ends up with back pain and calluses on our hands. In the end, we packed up our tents and set out on the journey. I pulled the rope. Come on, I shouted to Slavka. Harder. Slavka and Igor dragged a huge chest out of the pit. The earth didn't want to give up its treasure. The chest was entwined with roots, covered with layers of clay, moss, and just when Slavka found it, that's how it always goes. He studies the map, tinkers with his gadgets, spends hours with his laptop, which he never parts with, and voila, points out where to dig. Once, I peeked at his laptop, trying to understand what he was looking at and measuring with a ruler, and saw horizontal lines of reddish, gray colors of various thicknesses. When I asked what it was, my friend waved me off. They explained it to me for 5 years in college. Do you think I can tell you everything in 5 minutes? When the chest stood before us in all its glory, we were overwhelmed with that incomparable joy of finding treasure. So this is why you dragged us here? I exclaimed. Igor snorted. You, Slava. Next time just say, let's go look for treasure, and spare us the stories about beach vacations and idleness. Slavka smirked. Guys, honestly, I didn't plan this. And what can I do if the place near the coast turned out like this? Igor raised an eyebrow. You brought more equipment than bathing trunks. I squatted by the chest. And what have we unearthed? Slavka took charge. We'll find out now. Let's see. I've always been sure. Nothing can scare me. For seasoned treasure hunters like us, sentimentality and sensitivity are foreign concepts. Yes, we have plenty of superstitions and quirks, but they don't bother us. For us, legends and fairy tales are more like treasure maps than a stop sign. But then I felt some kind of mystical chill. The chest was truly ancient. So in any case, we couldn't go wrong. Even empty, it was a treasure in itself, so it would at least cover our trip. We carefully removed the moss. The chest was lined with rough iron plates, with a forged pattern, but now it was barely discernible due to rust. Slavka took photos. His son, Stas, pulled on the huge padlock. The rusty shackles snapped, and the lock fell apart. Contrary to our expectations, there was no gold in the chest, only decayed pieces of fabric, some iron rings and spoons. Nothing interesting, but why hide an empty chest? Igor suggested that the treasure had already been found by someone else before us, and the valuable items taken. We didn't want to lug the heavy chest with us, so we returned it to the pit and decided to take it home on our way back. And for now, return to the rhythm of relaxation and idleness. We ventured deeper into the heart of the peninsula. These cliffs have long been deemed mythical. Slavka narrated to the children while we unwittingly listened, a favorite haunt of occultists and esoterics. Even UF come here. Nonsense, my daughter doubted. Slavka cunningly squinted. True. Allow me to demonstrate. He retrieved from his backpack a radio, controlled quadcopter, an indispensable companion on all our journeys. The device soared, circled a couple of times, and returned. Look, the footage clearly showed yellowish rings on the grass, each about 3 meters in diameter. Wow! Stas exclaimed, no denying it. Slavka had a knack for spinning tales. If they dim, he continued, and if a person is nearby, illness will befall them. But at night, they glow brightly, bestowing strength and energy. Vaika inquired. Well, let's assume, but why do you folks come here specifically? Slavka raised his eyebrows, as if it were obvious. There's a portal to parallel worlds here, where one can make transitions to the past or future. The children became animated, demanding to see the portal. Slavka couldn't be stumped. He always found a way out. Turning his gaze to the sky, his friend declared, "It won't work. The portal opens in a leap year during a full moon. And today, neither the year nor the month is right." Igor and I chuckled. Then, out of nowhere, Slavka added, "And there are also ghosts lurking around here." Meanwhile, the sun was sinking towards the horizon, but we weren't afraid of getting lost. The sound of the surf below reassured us as we walked along the coast. Evening was drawing near, the perfect time to set up camp. Slavka kept examining the photos of the chest. Something was troubling him. As night fell, and we sat around the campfire, we refrained from scaring the children with ghost stories. It was taboo. Instead, we regaled them with merry and amusing tales. Stas dashed into the bushes for a call of nature. Suddenly, he burst out, as if scalded. "Dad, there's a boy asking to pass on a message. The chest must be buried, and what was taken should be returned." We were stunned. Slavka began rummaging through his pockets, insisting. I took nothing. We all shook our heads in denial. Only my daughter looked guilty, sheepishly tucking something away. "Sweetheart, did you take something away? Sweetheart, did you take something?" Vaika showed me a small iron ring with a blue gem, which shimmered beautifully, even in the darkness. No wonder the girl couldn't resist. What's strange, though, why did the ring catch only my daughter's eye when we were the first to inspect the contents of the chest? And she certainly didn't get close to the treasure. Alarm crept into our hearts. Unanimously, we decided to return to the chest the next day. Only after that did we ask Stas whom he had seen. The boy described a lad about 7 years old who persistently invited him to swim. And then it hit us. What boy? There was no one for miles around. Just us. Hearing this, Slavka turned pale, forbidding his son to approach the water without permission. And then he took us aside and recounted the rumors about ghosts in these parts, not without reason. Most often about a boy beckoning others to swim with him. Only those who went with him never returned. Of course, we didn't believe in ghosts, but such coincidences didn't sit well with anyone. Maybe it's just a legend, Slavka concluded, but my son couldn't have made up anything about the chest, or about returning, or about the boy. We decided to turn in for the night. At that moment, alongside the worry for my daughter, there crept in some ominous tension, as if caught in a snare with no escape in sight. Now I understand. We could no longer change anything. The outcome was inevitable. Dawn had yet to break when we were awakened by Tatiana's distant scream. She was running along the beach after Stas, who was heading towards the water. The waves were growing. Stas didn't respond to his mother's cries. We rushed after them, but it was too late. They were too far. I saw Tatiana grab her son at the last moment, pulling him close, and then the wave engulfed them both. And when the water receded, neither mother nor son were seen. The sea had swallowed them. We plunged into the water. The wind howled, the waves surged and crashed, but we dove with all our might, tearing our throats in futile screams. But we found neither Stas nor Tatiana. Until noon, we sat on the shore, silently gazing into the horizon. Slavka, at first, desperate, ran along the shore, shouting and throwing himself into the sea. We had to restrain him and tie him up. He cried until he exhausted himself. The sun played its games, while the sea caressed the shore, deceptively tranquil and serene. Slavka shook himself awake and demanded to be untied. He immediately buried himself in his laptop, insisting that we urgently return to the chest. Igor and I exchanged glances, but eventually set out on the journey. Throughout the way, Slavka recited fragments from articles about how empty chests sometimes concealed treasures beneath, urging us to dig deeper. He also mentioned tales of benevolent ghosts, warning of impending doom, suggesting that compliance with their requests could avert disaster. We paid little heed to his ramblings. We all understood. Our friend had just witnessed the drowning of his family. He merely feared being left alone with his thoughts. Soon, we realized we were lost, or rather, we seemed to be walking the path, but somehow not quite. Slavka released his copter and reassured us. We're on the right track. Vika clung to me, crying incessantly, pleading to go home. The girl felt guilty, knowing she had taken the ring. Slavka inappropriately read another excerpt about how some treasures are best left untouched, as their true owners remain unknown. At this point, Igor couldn't contain himself any longer. Slavik, enough. Besides people, who else could own treasure? But our friend calmly declared, "Demons." It was my turn to express disbelief. "What nonsense is this?" Slavka shoved the monitor in my face, pointing. "It says here that some demons require sacrifices, paying in gold. It's in exchange for answering their call." I grimaced. Grief might have clouded his judgment. Meanwhile, we should have reached the chest by now. Yet for some reason, we hadn't. Are we going in circles? Igor wearily flopped onto the ground, removing his sneakers. Slavka checked the data. No. We're here. That's when fear gripped me. Here, but not here. The grass lay evenly, rocks in their place. Who buried everything here? Igor voiced aloud what we were all thinking. Laughter echoed, and we turned to see Tatiana and Stas in the distance. I couldn't believe my eyes. Mother and son walked along the shore, alive and cheerful, but as soon as we stepped onto the sand, it turned into marsh. Slavka and Igor were being sucked in. I managed to leap onto a rock, clutching Vika. The sand swallowed our friends in a matter of minutes. I tried digging with my hands, thrashing, yelling, but found no trace of their bodies. My daughter was in hysterics. That's when I remembered Slavka's words about the portal to parallel worlds and cursed. Slavka's laptop shut off. The copter refused to take off. I was on the verge of panic, but tried to keep it together for my daughter's sake. When we returned to the spot where we found the chest, a young man in overalls awaited us. It startled us. For days, we hadn't seen a soul. The young man smiled slyly and proclaimed, "Been waiting." My daughter hid behind me. As the young man approached. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes as blue as the sea and blonde hair. "Who are you?" I rasped. The young man chuckled. "Your son-in-law." My daughter and I recoiled. "What nonsense is this? Don't get hot-headed, old man. Your daughter chose me herself." He retorted, "Old man, your daughter chose me herself," he retorted. "I chose no one." Vika cried out. The young man's eyes gleamed. "Did you take the ring?" "Taking mine without permission isn't wise." "We didn't take anything. It was a mistake," I protested. "It doesn't matter. You've retrieved the chest. Then you're thieves." He extended his hand. Vika, as if entranced, approached him, while I couldn't move. Then the young man laughed so loudly that my ears rang. He embraced my daughter, turned to me and said, "You'll find gold under the chest. It's yours." And he laughed, even louder. I promptly lost consciousness. When I woke up, everything was as it was. The dug-up earth, the chest, the belongings. Only I was alone. The golden coins lay exactly where the young man had indicated. You may think I'm mad, but ever since then, I've been searching for the person who sold the map to Slavka, and I'm on the verge of finding him.